Hi, what's going on? My name is Anant. In this video, I'm going to teach APIs to non-developers. So if you're someone coming from a background of marketing, sales, product management, or you're a SaaS founder but do not come from a technical background but really want to understand and leverage APIs yourself, then this is the right video for you. Because I come from a computer science background, but I have been in the shoes of all these professions that I said: marketer, sales, being a SaaS founder myself, and I've built a plenty of workflow automation for our business. So I know where you come from. You're someone who have no clue about what API is and how it works. And this, what I'm recording, is the first part of the video series. And in this entire video series, I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know about APIs while being overwhelmed with the jargons and the technicalities of it. And by the end of this video series, you will be able to make the API calls yourself. And I will also teach you about a few tools like Zapier, Pabbly, or Anyten. You can check out this one, and you can build your own workflow automation for your business. For example, if you always wanted to automate something like whenever I get an email, I want to reply that automatically by using AI. That's something you can do only if you understand how APIs work. If you're also like one of those vibe coders who are using Lovable, Bold.new, or any of these platforms to build your own SaaS or your own web application, this is the video for you because you will understand the fundamentals of APIs. So without further ado, I will start with very basic of APIs, and you gotta trust on my pace because I know how much time it takes to teach a non-developer. I have been teaching APIs to many non-developers in my own company, and if I rush it really fast, you may skip some of the concept which you will regret not learning earlier. So you gotta stick with my pace, and I will do my best to teach you APIs as fast as possible. I would like to cut all the crap and all the unnecessary information that might come while teaching you APIs. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because this is a continued series and that's the first video, and there will be more videos on APIs and also building workflow automation for your business. All right, so let's get into understanding what API is. So all this while, whenever you have been using a web application, you've been using it via user interface. Now let me just simplify this for you. So a web application is nothing but everything that you use on a day-to-day life. For example, Facebook, or the place where you're watching this video, which is YouTube, Google, any sort of productivity application or a business application that you use on a day-to-day basis. These are web application. Now, for these web applications, there are always two components that has always existed. One is user interface, which you get to see as a user. For example, currently you're watching this video on YouTube. That is nothing but a UI, right? You're watching this in a user interface. And then there has been a backend, right? So this is your backend. This is your backend. And this is your user interface, right? You always used user interface to interact with the backend. But do you know how user interface, which is UI, interacted with web application to fetch the information that you needed? I'm going to show you how. So every time you asked something to the UI, let's say to send a friend request on Facebook or to subscribe a channel or to view a channel, right? UI went ahead and made a API call to the web application. So here goes an API call every time you make an action. Let's say I subscribed to this YouTube video. What is going to happen? It's going to make an API call, and along with this API call, it's going to pass some information. That's the piece of information that user interface UI is passing to the web application, right? Now this information, let's call it data, right? Now this data includes a lot of things, which is number one, the authorization key, but in the simplest language you can say it is the password, right? So it contains that password which allows a web application to authorize each and every request, because anyone can go ahead and make an API call, right? And then web application can return the data to the person, and your web application is not at all secure. So the very first thing, we have to make sure that we are passing on the authorization key, because web application will check if the person is authorized to access or manipulate the data or not. And that's why you pass the authorization key. And then the second thing you pass is called as payload data. Now, in the simplest word, it's nothing but the context of your API call, right? If you wanted to ask something or manipulate something in the web application, you need to give more context, right? Now, let's just take an example of this in real life. Every time you ask someone to do something, for example, you told your watchman to bring something for you, would you just ask him to bring it without giving instructions, right? So you got to tell him where to go, how to get it, and where to deliver it, right? You got to give all of that information to that person for you to, for that person to retrieve that information or perform the action. So this payload data contains that information for you, right? It is very similar to your real life, right? You need one, authorization, and second is the context about the action that you're performing. So here what we are doing is we are making an API call via user interface, and every time you make a API call, something happens here. It processes your request by authorizing it, right? It checks whether the UI made a right call or not, or this API is coming from the right person or not. And as soon as it get it, it sends back some information. So let's say you went ahead and subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you made an API call for this, which was subscribe Anant's channel, right? So the moment you subscribed the channel, the web application processed the data and it said, hey, you know what? We have subscribed the channel now, and let me just return that information back to UI telling, hey, the channel has been successfully subscribed, right? So if the channel is successfully subscribed, the UI is going to take that information and reflect it on your YouTube. If you don't trust me, subscribe the channel and you will see how that works. All right. So this is how you make an API call. All this while, you have been making an API call through an interface. So you never get a direct access to these API calls yourself. You were using UIs to make these API calls. And why would you get access to API calls? Because you're not a developer, right? And most of the people in this world, they're not developers. But what if they could get access to API calls? Then they can build their own custom workflows. Imagine you never had to open your YouTube channel and you could subscribe anyone you wanted without opening the user interface, because again, you have the API key and you have the API endpoint. So you make that API call with the right authorization key and you subscribe to whichever channel that you want. Now, I know it doesn't make sense right now because that is not the kind of action you want to perform on a day-to-day life. But let me just give you another example which would make sense now. So imagine every day you were retrieving information from a newspaper or a news channel or a news website, right? So what you had to do is you had to go to the news So let's say if it's a news website, what you had to do is you always had to go to this news website, right? And this news website, again, using the back end, it fetches the information using the API call and gives you the right set of news that you're looking for, and then you're able to consume that news, but only on the news website. But let me give you a hack, which is, what if you had the direct access of this API key? You know what would I do in that case? I'll tell you. In that case, what I would do is I would make an API call directly to the server. Hold on. This is the web application, right? So I will make a direct call to the web application, and I would make another API call to, let's say, my WhatsApp. And I will send all of that information on my WhatsApp. Now I'm able to consume all that information directly from my WhatsApp instead of me opening the web application or opening that user interface, right? So that's how your life got simple, because now you have access to the API of this web application. So you never had to open the news website again to fetch all that information. Now, this is just an example of how I myself simplify my life by using APIs in my day-to-day life. As you can see over here, I have created, I don't know, hundreds of APIs workflows, right? And these are nothing but these are utilizing the APIs and making my life simpler. For example, I'm just going to show you one of the API. Check this out, right? So this is the API for LinkedIn OTP. Every time I get an OTP on my phone, I send it to my Slack, right? I'm going to show you that. Let me just show you, right? And I never have to open my phone message to get that information and then send it to Slack. So I'm going to show you how exactly that works. So let's just take you to the LinkedIn OTP, and you can see every time I get a message on my SMS, it goes to my Slack, and I've added my team members, and they can directly access the OTP for my LinkedIn whenever they need it. So this is one basic example of what you can do with APIs if you had access to APIs. Let me give you another example. I created something called as Natasha, which is my personal AI assistant. Now with Natasha, I can give instructions to create tasks for my team. If you've used a tool like Asana or any project management tool, instead of me going ahead and creating the project, the task on Asana, what I do is I just type it on Slack and then let Natasha do it for me, right? So these are the things that you will be able to do once you have mastered API, and I'm going to ensure that by the end of this video series you do get to build all these workflows, or if you're learning APIs for any other purpose, you just understand how it works and how you can yourself utilize it. Because I don't want to leave you with the half-baked information. I know I have created that curiosity in you where you really want to learn API and leverage it in your day-to-day life or in your business or in your marketing or sales. So this video series will ensure that you do get to learn everything that you need to learn. So all right, so here we understood how API looks like. Now what we are doing is we are taking out this person over here, which is the user interface. We're taking out the user interface and allowing you to access the API directly. Now Let me just give you an example of few APIs that freely available, right? So you can search for it. Uh, I just don't have the name handy. Yeah, this is the API. Now this directory has APIs which does not need any authentication. You see, it says no key required. It means you don't have to authorize yourself to make an API call for all these APIs which are there. So these are some basic API calls, like, if you want to know cat facts, or if you want to fetch the current Bitcoin price, right? So if you want to fetch information, this is the API for you. Now remember, API, I told you, are for two different purposes. One is to retrieve information and one is to manipulate the information. So here we are not manipulating the information. We are not updating, creating, or deleting the information. If we do any of these, that's manipulating the information. But right now with these APIs, we are just retrieving the information. And since these are not some sensitive information, these guys made these APIs publicly available and absolutely free for anyone to use. So I'm going to show you how to use any of these APIs. For example, if you see, this API fetches the Bitcoin price index in real time, right? So what I need to do is I need to just make this API call. But you know what? This API is a GET request. And if an API is a GET request, you can actually make that API directly from your browser URL. Let me show you. You just paste that URL and okay, so the reason why it did not work is because it's not a GET request, right? I tried making an API call, I just clicked on it, and you see it does not give me information because it's not a GET request. So I'm going to try some other API call which exactly is a GET request. Let's try this one. Let's try to fetch some cat facts. And you can see over here we got a fact about cat. Milk can give some cats diarrhea, and the length of this fact is 33. So usually when UI make a call to your web app, this is your app, it returns you the information in form of JSON. And what you're seeing right now, this one is nothing but a JSON, right? JSON is the universal language as of today, as of 2025 and onwards, for different web application to talk to each other. And I'm going to go into depth of JSON as well. The next topic is going to be, expanding the understanding of JSON and all the other things. But this is how it looks, right? A simple JSON looks like this, where you can see this is the key and this is the value. Now, if I want to beautify this and I want to see this in a nice way, there are tools like JSON Formatter, where you can go ahead and paste it and click on format and you can see in a nice way. So what we are getting is the fact, which is milk can give some cat diarrhea, and the length of this fact, right? The length of this word. So why are we getting the information like this? Because the web application, whoever built the web application, he decided to give the information just like this, right? And why GET request? Again, because the builder, the person who built who built the application, he decided that this information can be fetched via GET request. Now, the reason why we could not fetch this information is probably because it's not a GET request. That could be one reason. And second reason could be that this API doesn't work at the moment, right? Because, you see it's not able to respond to my query. So it doesn't work, right? So one could be that it's not a GET request, it's a POST request. Again, do not get overwhelmed about GET request and post request, because in the next video we are going to expand on all these things, right? But for now, I want you to be comfortable and not get overwhelmed with the idea of API. So I hope you did understand what APIs are, how does it work, and you can go to this free directory where you can explore some of the APIs yourself. Now you can see there is another API. Let's see if it's a GET request or not. So I'm going to try to make a GET request. You can see we can pass some information to this API, which you see over here, which we are passing right now, and it will tell you whether this person is a male or a female. So I'm going to pass a API, let's say John. If I pass the name John, it's going to telling me it's telling me that, hey, this name is a male, right? And the probability is 1.0. Now let's try something else. Let's try Mark. You can see again it's a male, right? Let's try another name, Lucy. Right, so the probability is that this name could be a female, right? So I hope you get what I'm trying to tell you, is that these are the freely available APIs. Again, let me show you another API. You see, by the name of a person, you can find out what is the nationality of the person. So let's see. I'm not sure if the API would work correctly for my name, but I'm going to try mine. Okay, I tried mine and it says IN, which is India, right? So the probability is that this person could come from India, and then it also, there are few other countries that it is suggesting, which is LC. I don't know which country it is. Now, if you're not able to understand this in a nice way, again, take this and put it over here and validate it. 1 second. I'm going to put it over here, click on format, and you can see. So the chances of me being in India is this much. LC, TH, I think Oman, it's UAE, it's Thailand, I'm not sure about that. But anyways, you understand what I'm trying to tell you, right? So the highest probability over here is that, I come from India, and which is true. Anyways, you can explore plenty of other APIs and test it out yourself. So another API is going to get you the current IP address. Then there are some jokes, random user, university list. Just go and test it out. Test out these APIs so that you can understand it better, and go ahead and format it over here, right? So that's it for today. I think the video is pretty long. It's 22 minutes. Now in the next video, we will expand on the topic. I'm not going to give you a straightforward topic, what exactly I'm going to discuss in the next video, because I'm trying to keep this at my pace. There is no curriculum for APIs, especially for non-developers. There's nobody teaching this. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.